Hello, my friends, and welcome to another hands-on session. These are live sessions where we get practical with Penpot, the open source design platform. And before I forget, you can keep up with all of our live streams and new videos by following us wherever you are watching this. And feel free to give me a little thumbs up of encouragement, a little like as well. As we are live, we will be taking questions throughout. Ask them in the chat. Wherever you're watching this, the team are also in the chat, and Juan and I will try to answer your questions live too. So let's see who's in the chat already. Hi, I'm going to try and read usernames now. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Mana. Oh, hi, Pablo. Hi, Maro. Hi, Elena. And of course, you can see him here already. We have another special guest this time. And you know him from so many fabulous Penpot videos. He's product designer at Penpot, and he is the MCP MVP. Please welcome Juan. And it's our first time recording together, so I can't wait to tap your brain. This is going to be really fun. And I don't know, maybe before we jump into it, I should ask you, what made you into such an AI workflow pioneer in the first place?
Well, I wouldn't frame it as a pioneer.
Well, you've really been leading the way at Penpot, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was more about, solving practical problems. So at Penpot, we've been researching the best way to integrate AI into the design workflow for a long time. And we have explored many options, really. So, and we generally conclude that the best approach is to provide AI agents with the best possible visual and design, very important context for from Penpot. So yeah, that's why I decided to jump in.
You've been working out all the secret sauce. Well, yeah. I think maybe that's a good time for us to jump in and start talking about what actually are AI workflows. So I'm going to work you through a little example I made earlier. That is the secret of this hands-on, is that I did have to pre-record some of the demos because, well, if you've ever done any work with AI, you know that things can happen in the middle that you don't want them to. And so I just wanted to make sure that we ran to time and we sped up the very slow thinking bits. So let's have a look at this Penpot design I have. It might look familiar to some of you already. And I don't really like the primary accent color in this design. So here are the tokens that we've already got for the palette. And I'm going to write a prompt for the agent. So my prompt is basically saying, giving it a role and saying, can you update the color tokens to match this hex code that's a kind of tealy, bluey, greeny color? So let's do this thing.
Let's go.
So first, what it's going to do is it's going to review the file to understand it. And then it proposes its solution, makes a sort of whole bunch of updates. It reckons this is what I'm going to do for each of the design tokens and how I'm going to update it. And then it asks me, should I proceed? So I say, yes, I type very slowly, proceed, and it gets going. And it updates the tokens just like that. You can see them over here in the primary design tokens panel section that they've updated. The one thing is it hasn't quite updated the whole design yet, and I just need to change the theme. So that's what they've updated. Oh, it's gone back, and it's going to bubble through. Oh, it's gone back to the This is the downside of using the videos, is that it didn't, but it's reset to the first one. Okay, well, what it did is all then I needed to do was just reset the theme to make sure the changes bubbled through all of the tokens. And I had that teal update. So what actually are AI workflows? What is the AI we're talking about here? Mostly in the tech industry lately, we've been using AI, artificial intelligence, as kind of a shorthand for LLMs, which are large language models. And an LLM is a type of artificial intelligence that's trained on huge amounts of data. That's the large part. including much of the web, a lot of unlicensed material as well, and incidentally, my book. So yes, it was under copyright, and no, they did not ask for permission, but it got sucked up anyway. And the LLM's aim is to understand and generate human language. So that makes it more able to perform tasks, particularly tasks based on pattern matching. So then we feed it prompts. So what's a prompt? It's the input that we give to the AI, like the task we set the AI. So you've probably noticed search engines like this using your search queries as really basic prompts, possibly even though you didn't necessarily ask for it. And an agent acts on behalf of an LLM. So it doesn't just respond to prompts like a chatbot kind of situation. It can also plan and analyze and execute tasks. And so when we're talking about AI workflows, we're talking about connecting an agent to Penpot. It can read the new elements, assets, and tokens in the Penpot file, and it can create new elements and assets and tokens in your Penpot file. Like that. And it can work out the context for your design using its training data from around the web or any specific references you provide. And so AI workflows are essentially structured processes we can use in our work that use AI. Then there's a thing called tokens, which is kind of important because it often equates to a lot of money. A token is a unit of work that's done by an LLM, and it roughly represents about a character of text. So that's a lot of text going in and out of in part of your dialogue with the LLM. And most LLMs will charge by that token. And a token is also quite a reasonable indicator of computational effort, which it also correlates to some degree to its energy use as well. So if you think very expensive token heavy generations, they're going to also be very energy intensive as well. And what is an MCP? Well, it stands for Model Context Protocol. So it's a protocol or a standard format for providing context to the model, as in the large language model. And the MCP server is a tool that exposes your Penpot file to your agent. So after all of that, Juan, what problems do AI workflows actually solve for designers and developers?
Yeah, first of all, don't be aware about all this stuff. It can sound like a bit complex, but it isn't, okay? So the first thing that, and the main thing that they solve is that you can automate repetitive tasks. Of course, you can generate designs, but the main thing is, designers work visually and developers work in code. And a lot of time is spent translating between both worlds. So AI workflows help to reduce that gap, right? So as I said, they are really useful for automating repetitive tasks. Also when, design tasks and also transform design to code to design. You can do multiple directions using MCP in Penpot, and also extracting structure and meaning from design files, which is really important and is key because Penpot allow you to go very deep in the data, the design data that the Penpot file has, and also generating code or documentation from design data. So, but in my opinion, the key shift is like, instead of manually navigating tools, you can interact with your design system through language and workflows, which is amazing.
Yeah, you're already creating so much context for your design work using design systems that it's really like, it makes sense that you can pass that on to another platform as well.
Absolutely.
Great. So how Penpot MCP works is, I'm going to show you. So let's jump into this bit. So I'm going to show you exactly, start to finish, how I set it up on my machine. And this is using remote Penpot, which you can use today from design.penpot.app. And I'm using an AI client that is, it's running locally on my machine, and the LLM is elsewhere, and I will explain that in a moment. So first of all, what you need is an MCP key. So first of all, we're checking the MCP server is disabled, and then I go to my account, and I'm going to go to integrations, and I'm going to turn on the MCP server. And this will give me the option to generate an MCP key. And oh, come on, video. So I'm an absolute mare with these today. Okay. And I've set it for unlimited duration, and then you can copy and paste that key, and it also gives you the option to then you get this MCP server. Then I'm going to go to Open Router, which we're going to use to provide our models, and I'm going to create an API key with them. Now it's very easy to sign up with Open Router, and you get a free account with them, and you get your API key. They give you the option to set that up as soon as you start up, and you can create a key. And then what you will probably want to do is go and get some credits. So there's the option here, and you can add credits. I'm not going to show you how my credit card process works, but many of the LLMs, the models are not free, and so you want to kind of set some sort of limit for how much money you want to spend. Don't do auto top up. That will get expensive really quickly. And you can just add maybe $10 or something to start with to start yourself off. The next thing we want is a client. So this is what we're going to use to connect Penpot and the LLMs through Open Router. And so for this, I've picked open code. I've tried to go with mostly open source, free and open tools as much as possible. And open code is quite straightforward to use. And I just downloaded the desktop version that they've got. And even though it's called code, you don't need to be intimidated if you're not feeling very technically minded. There's not very much code involved in this process. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into their menu, and I'm going to not open a project yet. I'm going to go into settings and providers. I'm going to scroll down and find that Open Router provider and connect. And all I need to paste in there is the API key that I got from Open Router. I have deleted these API keys, so don't any of you try to use them in case you did see them. They're already not available. And so now that's connected to Open Code. So now I'm going to open an empty project that I've got on my machine, just an empty folder on my machine in Open Code. And so that's just an empty folder called MCP demo. You see it's all eager and ready to go. Next, I'm going to go back to Penpot, and I'm going to get that MCP code, and I'm going to add it to a config file. So I'm going to go just into a text editor or code editor. I'm going to create a file called opencode.jsonc. That is a config file in a format that OpenCode likes. I'm going to paste in my MCP code just like that and wrap it so that we can all read the key that I have already deleted. And then once we've done that, we want to actually add a few more specifics to the file. This is quite handy information if you want to get started with OpenCode. And that is just that it wants a little bit more config information. So we're going to add in a schema. We add in type remote and enabled true inside the Penpot section. And once we have got that, I'm just going to format the file. So that's just making sure all the indentation is okay for a JSON file. So every nested bracket, every time something's nested, it's indented, because it will make a fuss if that isn't right like that as well. And then I'm going to reload OpenCode. It often likes a reload or a restart. If I go to the little status, I can see the Penpot MCP is connected, and that's a little green status icon alongside it. So once I have that, I can go back into Penpot, And I can close the integration section. I need to actually open up a file. So I'm going to go into my design mocks file, and I'm going to go into the menu, and I'm going to, come on, video, into menu, and go to MCP server and check that it is enabled. So it's enabled. Then I can go into the open code, and I can, in planning mode, so I don't want it to do anything just yet, I want to check it's enabled in the file. So the way that I'm going to do that is just by choosing, I can choose any model I want as well. So that's all the open router options, loads and loads of different LLMs to choose from. Just going to go Claude because it's obvious and easy. And then I can type in my prompt, which I'm just going to ask, and I found this is quite a good way to get started. What is the name of my current open Penpot file? So I'm just checking that everything's working as expected. And this is actually as it happened in real time. I didn't speed it up or anything. Your current open Penpot file name is design mocks. And so that is how we get from starting up with just an MCP key. And there is very little code involved. It's really just a bit of copy pasting and formatting. And that is our result.
Yeah, that's the hello world test.
It very much is that. I wanted to jump back to some questions that I had for you, Juan, about the LLMs, because I was talking about using OpenRouter for because the benefit of that, I think actually you recommended OpenRouter to me, is that it can automatically choose between different models for you, or you can choose the model that you want to use. So which LLMs have you found most successful with Penpot MCP in your experience?
Yeah, OpenRouter is a really good provider. First of all, as we can saw, MCP works with any MCP compatible client. This is key because you can plug in different models depending on your needs. That said, model quality does matter more than people sometimes expect. For best result, you should use a strong model with high quality inference setup, which means that the more, this is a bit complex to explain, but let's say that the more complex the task, especially anything involving, I don't know, multi-step reasoning or design to code transformation, for example, the more the model will directly impact the quality of the output. And also, if your workflow involves like visual understanding using a vision language model, now it's not like a proper model because all the frontier models are multi-model. So one of these skills of the model needs to be a vision language understanding, a VLM. Is essential since it allows the AI to interpret designs elements directly. So in practice, strong frontier models perform significantly better for complex workflow, and simpler models can still work for repetitive or well-defined tasks. What matters most is how well the models follows structured instructions, which Penpot is really good providing the instructions, and how effectively it interacts with the MCP tools. That's the key.
And that's one of the things that's worth emphasizing, is that Penpot MCP is totally agnostic of whatever model and whatever client you want to use. I just used OpenRouter, OpenCode, Claude in this instance, but you could use anything you want. You could run it with a local model on your device if you wanted. Like, it's all possible, and Penpot MCP does not penalize you for choosing one way or the other.
Exactly. Yeah, as you are saying, the difference between local version of the MCP and the remote version.
You just anticipated my question.
Yeah, it's because I think that is
we're on that. Yeah, definitely
related, sorry, but yeah, the local MCP server runs on your machine and connects directly to the SaaS version of Penpot, but also with your local Penpot instance, as you said. Is reading your file system. This is the key benefit. And the remote MCP server not, but is hosted on Penpot servers elsewhere and connects to Penpot over the network.
Great. So I think this is a really good time to say to people, if you want to ask questions throughout the stream, if you have any niggling questions or anything that hasn't already been answered in the stream by Pablo, then jump into whatever platform that you are watching this on and ask us away. We are here live right now, and if we don't get to your question live, we will also try to answer it later on down the line. Great. Here's a good question from Mana Marketing. Can you use skills or markdown files to prepare the LLM for its Penpot work? That's a good question for you, Juan. I know you've been diving into skills.
Yes. Yeah, of course you can, because again, it depends on your tech stack. So for the vast majority of tasks, Penpot provides enough context to the model to successfully complete the task. So yeah, you need to perform. But of course, you can create your own skills and apply them to your workflows if that gives you more advantages. So yeah, I did. I created myself. I have a repo with my own skills. I can share with you if you want. But they are really easy to create because yeah, created them is very simple thanks to the Penpot plugin API documentation. You can give it to the LLM and ask to generate a new skill based on it.
Yeah, and in most situations, a skill is essentially just a markdown file that's got a bit of YAML or something at the top of it to speak so that it gets picked up at the right time. It's often nothing more advanced than that. It can be really simple. Well, I think one of the techniques that you recommended to me is just keeping a long sort of copy paste document of all of your successful prompts and relying on going back to that and picking out the things from what works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's why, well, and the thing is that now skills are the trend, and is the best way to approach this. But I'm sure that in a close future, we have new methodologies to do that. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's I guess it's always where there's a resource to be provided, there are people doing it for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. Okay, well, how about we dive into some practical use cases for AI workflows?
Let's go.
So I'm going to, returning to this file, I don't know if you remember this I made a very long time ago, probably one of the earliest hands-on I created this demo file. And I'm going to show you a little example of what you can do from design to design, as we would call it. So this is basically working up a design inside of Penpot and using the client. So I'm going to start off just with this file. It has no design tokens in it. And I'm going to do a little prompt for it. And I'm basically saying, can you create me some design tokens for the colors in this file? I've just stuck with one parameter to make it a bit more straightforward. I want you to use a particular naming structure for the design tokens. Make sure you apply them and organize them into a token set, and do not create any themes because it will be tempting if there's light and dark mode involved. And so then the agent starts thinking and it starts outlining, oh yes, this is what I'm going to do. I've come up with a bunch of hex codes and I've worked it out. And it actually asks me some questions to get some feedback on what's going on. So do I want to use the UI Chrome, or do I want to include the avatars? And it also asks me, should I use a naming structure with light in the name? And so I say, yes, I'll go for that. And it continues on from there. It continues with its thinking, and it starts a little to-do list, and it starts executing it. And you can see the design tokens magically appearing. And as random items get selected on the canvas, this is not by me, this is the agent at work And it is as it's going through checking and applying all of the design tokens to the relevant parts of the design. And then it gives me a little summary of what it's done. And it gives me some of the design decisions worth flagging, some of its naming conventions that it's used. And I can go in and I can see, look, if I select that, the design tokens have been applied and they've got nice semantic names based on the naming structure that I provided to them as well. So I thought, okay, I'll keep going with this. And I'm going to now give it a prompt where I ask it to create a dark mode as well. And it asks me which inspiration should the dark palette follow. And one of the suggestions it's made was Chakra UI's way of doing dark mode. Or I could go with neutral dark grays or a true black with deep accents. And so I think I would just go for the Chakra UI option because it's the easiest one to go for. And so I say go for it. And then it says, oh, how should I treat these particular tinted colored cards? Should I make them a deep version of the color? I say yes. And it then goes and it creates me a dark mode. So it's following the Chakra UI dark mode, kind of that tinted purpley blue styling, which works quite well with my light mode. And then it summarizes what it's doing for me. It's saying, no, I've done it, and you need to think about these bits of the design. I can see a potential issue. This is everything that I've done, everything that I've applied it to, and I can look in the dark tokens section and the light tokens section and see all of those new tokens have been created for me. And they're semantic and they're actually useful and they're actually following the naming structure that I wanted, which I think is incredibly useful to be able to do that kind of really repetitive work, isn't it?
Yeah, what a good example.
Well, we thought that maybe we could show you some other examples as well in the future. We've got some, we've got this demo that Juan made earlier because nobody does the design to code better. So here it is showing. Juan, do you want to talk us through what's going on there?
Yeah, so we created the design of this music app on the right in Penpot without the UI. We are in the focus mode and not distraction mode. And we asked the cursor, in this case, to recreate the design into HTML and CSS. And as you can see, we are now opening the HTML. And you can see in the right now is Firefox. And it is completely navigable, clickable, and it respects the design like pixel perfect. And you can see all the code that it generate. And we have also the rest of the screen done in HTML and CSS. But the most important thing here is the simplicity and also the way that the agent represents the design like perfect, which is with a single prompt in this case.
Have you done very much making responsive designs with this? Do you have any advice if anyone wants to try like working with things like breakpoints?
Well, in that case, my recommendation is to design the breakpoints in Penpot, like the media queries, if you want to name it, because all the context you can give to the LLM, I mean the visual context, it makes the difference. So it will represent all the adapted and fluid design much better if you create every media query you need to do in code. So it's like when we in the past as designers create all this handoff documentation. So that's matter a lot.
Yeah. Would you create a separate board for each breakpoint or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a practical way of doing it. Do we have any questions when it comes to the use cases for AI workflows? Okay, well, I think the questions are all getting answered for us on our behalf, so we don't need to respond to any. Okay, well, I don't know. Why don't we dive into some of the nerdier details when it comes to AI workflows, best practices, and risks?
Yes, let's go. So let's talk a bit about one thing that most people missed, but is really important, because good prompting is, a good way to think about prompting is you are not giving instructions to a tool, you are briefing a collaborator in some way. So the biggest mistake people make is being too vague or expecting perfect results in one shot. So the practices we listed here in this cheat sheet, as you can see. Well, of course, we are going to share all this stuff with you. All the practices we listed here all come down to one idea, which is reduce ambiguity and guide the process. We can saw in the examples that Laura did that she starts all the prompts like act as a senior developer or act as a product designer. Start, defining a role, give context, but not just this. Like structuring prompts gives clarity, and asking for a reason gives you control. And maybe the most important one is treat it as a iterative project. Iterative, to iterate.
Yeah, going over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Not one-shotting it, because the first output is almost never the final one, and it's part of the workflow. So yeah, this is my advice for you. But also, I can talk a bit about token aware if you want, Laura.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So yeah, here we have another cheat sheet, another reference guide for you. In this case, we're talking about token aware, because nowadays tokens are like the new Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Token aware prompting is about reducing the waste and increasing clarity, as you can imagine. So every unnecessary word, repetition, or bug instructions consume tokens without improving the result. So even sometimes make it worse. The goal here is simple: less noise and more structure. And again, Penpot here helps a lot because of its structure in the file structure. So most prompts become inefficient because of I don't know, overly verbose instructions, unnecessary formatting, or explanations, long repetitive list, duplicator or conflicting rules. I don't know, you know what I mean. In practice, shorter and more structured prompts tend to perform better, more consistently, and be easier to debug. So yeah.
You wouldn't think it either. It's funny, you'd think when you first started learning it, you think, well, surely the more information I give it, the better.
Exactly. No. For example, most people start like telling their lives to the chat, which totally is good. Like, I'm having some troubles because I think that probably I need to approach this in this way or in this other way, but doesn't matter to the LLM. So please make a list and give it the proper structure, quite unconsist, and in the end, you are going to reduce the token consumption.
Yeah, which in turn makes it more affordable, which in turn also reduces the computational and energy expense of your prompts. I was telling Juan earlier that I was trying to build a system using a prompt, and I ended up burning through about $10 of tokens.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, and well, I guess we know that I use too many words when few would do. That's a trend in everything I do.
And of course, tokens are becoming more expensive
Yes.
every day, but you can start reducing that token consumption by doing proper prompting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And learning a lot from that. And I guess that brings me to the next question, which I think is an important discussion to have, is like, what are some of the common pitfalls that you've come across in AI workflows? Like, what can't it do?
Well, there are a few recurring issues. First, not understanding what MCP actually exposes. People treat it like magic instead of a tool interface. So first thing first, Penpot MCP is developed on top of the plugins API of Penpot. So learn how it works, which is really easy and really straightforward. And the second advice probably would be like, yeah, again, writing prompt that don't align with the available actions or data is a pitfall. And expecting the AI to infer structure that isn't clearly defined in the design.
Yes.
So start from your design, structure it properly, and then this is the best context you can give to the LLM in order to get a good output.
Yeah, if anyone has been taking the UI design with Penpot course with me, you know that I have been banging on the drum of organizing your Penpot files, organizing your layers. It doesn't just help when you get to the layout stage, but it helps provide all of these little bits of information to the agent to understand what's going on inside your file and what your intention actually is with that file. And I think one of the problems is there's a huge amount of marketing out there when it comes to AI workflows, and most of it is you see a prompt that is a few words long and it says, make me a magical app. And poof, it makes a magical app. And that's not really, it's not really something that we want to do with Penpot MCP, is it? And it's not really something that the majority of designers and developers would be looking to do, is it?
That is not the objective of the MCP in Penpot. Penpot is a professional tool for design and developers also, but mainly for design and design systems. So if you want it to work properly, start doing a professional work. I mean, if you want to generate something, probably you need to use other experimental tools out there. But in Penpot, of course, you can generate designs for sure, but you need to structure your design properly because it's a good practice. It's better for you, for your future.
I think that is one of the real limitations of these workflows and of using LLMs is it is basing its understanding on what is already out there, what already exists. And so if you are asking it to generate something with providing very little context or useful information on your side from your Penpot file, then what it will do is it will make it up based on what is already out there, based on a sum of averages, based on what is most popular, what is most generic, to some degree out of date as well, depending when the training data came in. And so there's a reason why a lot of these AI outputs look a lot like Tailwind or Shadcn or something like that, because there's a huge amount of apps and sites out there using these things. And that's great if you want to produce something that looks like everything else. But I guess as professional designers, we're usually trying to solve a specific problem that isn't solved with a generic answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you are like looking the result that other people are getting from other tools, you can feel the flavor, right? You can see that this is made by a Claude or this is an OpenAI thing because you can feel the flavor in the UI. it's always the same. So this is not professional design. This is, of course, this is, I'm not saying that don't to use it, but it's not for professional use.
Yeah. I think one of the very interesting areas of research I've heard out of the design systems community is the idea around providing additional, very data-based structures about your design system, explaining things like the guidance on how things should be used, when and where components should be used, how patterns should be made up of multiple components, which variants should be used, and being able to provide all of this information in an easily, like something that's easily readable as a data format to agents to get the real benefits out of your design system. And I think that's a really interesting approach to design work in general. It's like semantics plus plus, really.
We are
and
currently
we're trying to
in Penpot.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any
we are,
examples?
Yeah. We are going. Well, it's for internal use, but where we are currently developing new features in Penpot, and we also create these markdown files for the agents to follow the instructions. But again, it's not just to follow trends, which is cool to know about them, but it's better to have your own proper workflow with governance, with proper naming convention, with proper use of components and variants, and yeah, that's scalable. The other way is just playing.
Yeah. And it's kind of a reminder that the design process isn't just you think of an idea and a magic product appears at the end. Like the design process is all of those little design decisions along the way. It's the communication that you're having with other people on your team. It's learning from other people's like experience and skills and understanding. And so if you can bring all of that with you to using the MCP, then you could be on fire in a good way.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, well, how about we jump into the Q&A section? The big one. And as the live banner said, anything we do not cover live will be covered in the community. Okay, great. We have a question, and this is good. It's one that is always worth re-emphasizing. Do I need to use Penpot MCP with a specific client or LLM, Juan?
No. Penpot MCP is client agnostic, as you said, and so you can use any MCP compatible client. Just make sure you are using a capable model, especially for more complex workflows, but you can use whatever you want.
Great. So that is good to know that you can just get started, and you can get started today as well. And how should teams structure their design files in Penpot to get better results from AI workflows? So we kind of mentioned labeling your layers. Is there any other tips that you would give with regards to maybe pages and boards and those kind of structures?
I think in general, use clear hierarchy, consistent naming, and reusable components, so the AI can understand relationships. Messy or ambiguous files will lead to unreliable outputs.
Right. And so obviously we showed that it works very well with design tokens earlier. And so it works equally well with components and libraries. If you're using multiple libraries connected to your files, do you need to do anything different for that? Or is it just the same as you would for communicating with another human?
This is really important because you mentioned shared libraries. The NCP also learn and use from the shared libraries. The NCP, the Penpot NCP has the capacity to go throughout all the files in your team. So if you connect 2 or 3 shared libraries, let's see, 2 parts of a design system or an icon set or whatever, you can use it through the NCP, asking the LLM. So it's really important to clarify this structure.
So actually, in many ways, it could be a way for you to find out more about your file as well. If you just opened up a file shared with someone, like someone else on your team shared a file with you, you could ask it lots of questions about the structure and the setup of the file, and the MCP could tell you exactly what's going on without you having to hunt around for it too.
As we
providing it's been organized well.
Yeah, as by coding, you can ask this piece of code, what is meant for. So you can do it the same with the components or with a screen, or I don't know.
I have a question. This is just a question that's come out of my head just now. So I'm wondering about things like using flex layouts and grid layouts in your design. Like a lot of the examples I've seen other people create with LLMs and other design tools, they're producing quite static files, things where items are positioned absolutely or statically on a canvas, and there's not really much that can be made responsive out of it. Does Penpot MCP help you do that?
Yeah, by default, if you ask Penpot through the MCP to generate a new layout, it will follow mainly flex and grid layout, depends on what is better to implement. So yeah, also if you ask it to position absolute an element, you can see that the NCP probably infer that you want to use flex layout. If you, I mean, looking into UI design, you can of course generate like poster designs or creative designs, not only interface design. But if you are asking the LLM to create or generate or reuse components for a new UI screen, probably it leads you to use flex layout and grid layout.
Yeah, it encourages you to use best practices. I actually noticed that when I was trying to create the design where I was getting it to generate light tokens and dark tokens inside of the same token set and using naming to separate them. And it actually, when I was looking through what the LLM had thought, it said, maybe you don't want to do this because the recommended way of creating color modes in Penpot is to use separate token sets for each color mode and to use themes to switch between them, which of course is what I tell everyone to do in the other hands-on sessions and the videos. And the agent called me out on that.
That's probably the way that I use MCP for the most of the time. Every day I used MCP to token relation. I mean, to generate new token sets, new brand sets, apply new tokens, invert tokens every day, because it's really, it's really helpful for that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and while it's important that we make the design decisions around it ourselves, and we understand like the implications of what we're doing, and the sort of hierarchy design and information design is a big part of design, but it's the repetitive creating of individual tokens. I think we as pattern matching machines, as humans, struggle for consistency. Me trying to create a design tokens set from scratch, I cannot tell you how many times I remap those tokens because I've renamed them a million times over. So if I could at least get a sort of a clear naming structure in my head and out there, then I can let it do the rest for me.
Yeah, and also it's amazing to see how it generates. Also for me, for example, it's a pain is because it's a repetitive task to generate new variants from a component. And I ask the LLM to follow the styles in my Penpot file, and it's really good to see that with a simple prompt, it applies all the styles with the tokens, and yeah, it fits perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose if you provide it with, say, a variant example of sort of all of the extremes of the variants, then it can work out how to cross combine the like if you've got multiple variants options inside of one component. That's so cool. I have to try that out.
Yeah.
So do we have, folks, any more questions before we start wrapping up? What's the biggest mistake people make when they start using MCP with AI agents? Well, we've gone over very long-winded prompts and talking to it like it's another human being. Can you think of anything else you've seen, Juan?
Yeah, we already comment a lot in it. The biggest mistake probably is that they treat it like magic instead of a tool with constraints and expect like perfect results in one step. That probably, is a mistake. The right approach is to break problems into smaller workflows and iterate.
That actually makes me think, I think we might have a video that perfectly illustrates the idea of understanding using the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
Do we have that video left over, folks? That was fabulous. I hadn't actually seen that video yet, and it really illustrates a lot of the points you're making about producing text and things like that.
Yeah, this is an example that we did like a few days ago, and it shows like Penpot, as we were talking, Penpot stands out in agentic AI because it's LLM agnostic and uses strong semantic design as code as a model. And here in the samples, we can see that Penpot lets the agents to operate freely. And the result is a powerful workflow that shows us that it is interpreting the prompt not only semantically but without errors. And yeah, it's amazing to see how other experimental design tools that I want to call like Stitch, as we can see, Stitch or Cloud Design, etc., start like messing up the layout, etc., and Penpot stay doing great and proper layout. So it's really good to see that.
Absolutely. Well, my friends, there you can find loads more on Penpot and AI workflows in the Penpot user guide. There's so much great documentation in there. I've relied on it a lot. I'm sure you'll find it useful as well. On the Penpot blog, including posts written by Juan himself, and the MCP video playlist, we'll have all of the links produced in here as well. And that's pretty much all the time we have for today. Well done. Before I forget, if you want to get certified in Penpot, you should check out the Penpot certification by our friends at CGGE. You can get some very cool badges. The first module, I think you call it a module or exam, is available now to take for free. See if you can beat me. It runs alongside the UI design with Penpot course. So the exams will correlate to what you've been doing in the course. And I got 99% on the first exam. Now, I will leave that up to you, whether you decide that is good or bad, but you should try to beat me. Thank you so much, Juan, for joining us. I hope you'll come back soon. And friends in the chat, thank you so much for joining us live. Thank you, team, for joining and answering so many questions. Next time, leave some for the rest of us. You know that you being here live is what makes doing these live hands-on demos worthwhile. And we do appreciate having the team here actually answering questions better than I possibly could. Absolutely. So make sure that you are following us or subscribe to us so you can be the first to find out when we are next doing a live hands-on session, and catch you in the Penpot community. Thanks so much, folks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.